Welcome back to Sports Club. We finally have our first review of the season. The first games are in the book. This is our first review Tuesday of the NFL season. I'm Bryce Sparling. This is D. Snyder, but not the guy from Twisted Sister. Don't be confused. We're just going to jump right into it. We're going to hit the Monday night matchups. Last night, the early game was Bengals and Ravens. The Ravens just completely dominated the Bengals in this game. It was disturbing.
I thought there's still preseason looking at the Bengals play out there.
It's about how it looked. I was on Twitter and I saw one NFL expert saying they should bench Andy Dalton. Everybody gave him crap about, Andy Dalton's playing fine. Well, it was to try to protect Andy Dalton because he was just getting killed by that defense of Baltimore, who is old.
Didn't
have Terrell Suggs, but still brings it. Flacco throws it all around. The Ravens just they took away with this one, 44-13. The late game last night, Chargers and Raiders. Chargers, they won a close one, 22-14.
Shouldn't have been that close.
Honestly, it should not have. Chargers were the only team to win this weekend whose quarterback had a lower rating than the team that won.
And you got to question whether the Chargers would have won if their long snapper wouldn't have got hurt. The Raiders, yeah.
He muffed
two. He rode two punts to the punter, and I think one was blocked. That was actually good.
Yeah,
that was crazy.
I mean, that's they put in I believe the second string long snapper was actually technically a linebacker. On the roster. So when he goes down, that really hurts you. All right, first game we're gonna hit from the Sunday games is Steelers and Broncos. This was a big comeback game for Peyton Manning. Came back from the injury. Everybody was wondering.
I thought Tebow was quarterback over there.
He changed. Jesus moved. Jesus moved to New York. A lot more souls to save in New York than there is in Denver. But yeah, this was the big kind of, I wouldn't say the biggest matchup, but one of the biggest question matchups. And everybody was saying Manning's back. His stats were good. He had a good solid game. It wasn't Peyton-esque. But he had a good, solid game.
He did. He did. He looked real good.
Yeah. Ben was sacked 5 times by Denver's defense, who last year was the big reason they got that playoff push. And
they still look good.
They picked up right where they left off last year. Manning went over 400 touchdowns for his career with 3 tosses.
Fastest to do that.
Yep, last week, and very deservedly so. One of the greatest I've ever been able to watch. Next game was a surpriser for me. Panthers and Buccaneers. I honestly did not see the Bucs picking up a win in this game. I honestly thought Cam Newton was going to come out, pick up where he left off last year, and pick up the win. I was really surprised the Bucs took this one.
They didn't run the ball. There was no rush.
Carolina could not run the ball whatsoever.
Yeah, it was.
And Martin, the running back for the Buccaneers, 57% of his yards on Sunday were after he got touched. I mean, that's when half of your yards are after you get the first touch. That's pretty big for a running back.
Yes.
Yeah, and Buccaneers just played solid defense. They didn't turn the ball over, and Carolina couldn't run the ball at all. It was more one-sided than the 6-point victory showed. Next one is Seahawks Cardinals. Russell Wilson making his debut. Didn't do great. Didn't really do bad. Just kind of one of those.
It could have been a different game if there wasn't so many drop passes at the end of the game. The Seahawks would have won. I believe there was a dropped touchdown pass, and then with a couple seconds left, the person they kept over Edwards dropped a potential. Go ahead.
And Skelton got hurt. Call-up came in. Wins the game. It's the quarterback battle out there in Arizona. I don't know. At least it's a storyline in Arizona for a team that's probably not having many storylines this year. Poor guys. Yeah. The next game we're going to talk about is your game.
49ers.
Yeah, Niners and Green Bay. I knew the Niners were a good team. I didn't know they were this good. They really showed how many flaws the Packers have. A, how many flaws the Packers have, and B, how many flaws a good quarterback like Aaron Rodgers can cover up. The Packers have no run game.
None. Despite
what some people have told me, the Packers have an atrocious defense. In my humble opinion, their defense looked atrocious.
Smith did a good job of picking them apart.
He did, and I got to hand it to Alex Smith. He did not manage this game at all. He performed. And that was something that we didn't get to say a lot about Alex Smith last year, was that he was a performer. Last year he was a game manager. They came out and performed. That defense came out and was stellar.
Aaron Rodgers led the Green Bay Packers in rushing yards, if that's telling you anything. Let's not forget about also Randy Moss took sole possession of second place in receptions on touchdowns in a career, and that 63-yard field goal at the end of the half by Akers was
sweet.
Nice.
Niners held Rodgers 9 of 20 passing for passes over 6 yards, which he led the league in 4 categories that last year. And this game shouldn't even have been that close because the Randall Cobb return, there was a clipping call that wasn't called, just one of the many follies by the backup refs who were just atrocious, in my humble opinion.
Minor league refs.
Were just awful. Next game, Dolphins at Texans. Tannehill looked like the rookie quarterback he is.
I'm ready to get home to his wife.
Yeah, I don't blame him. Houston came out, took care of business. Houston right now is looking, I know a lot of people had them as their favorites for the Super Bowl, and I'm on, if they keep playing like this, I would agree.
The Houston team, with a minute and 58 seconds left, scored in the half, scored 21 points.
That's impressive.
There's no lead that's comfortable with them.
Hitters right there. That's very, very impressive. All right, next game we got is Buffalo at the Jets. The Jets, let me put it this way. The Bills made the Jets look like a much better team than the Jets really are.
Yeah, the Jets are not this good. Don't let the 48-28 score throw you off thinking the Jets are an elite team.
Fitzpatrick had 14 incompletions and 3 interceptions. He just couldn't do anything.
He threw 3 touchdowns.
With 3 interceptions.
Yeah.
That kind of negates it.
Yeah.
The only bright spot I could see for the Bills was
Stiller. Yes.
But he had 169 yards, which is tremendous for running back.
14 attempts.
But a lot of those rushing yards were in the second half. And
when it didn't matter.
It
was over,
right.
Jets put their backups in.
Yeah, and Tebow really led the Jets with 11 rushing yards, played tight end, and an onside kick recovery.
Yes.
I mean, that...
Extreme.
A leader.
That's the man.
A leader right there. Next game is an upset, which our own Mr. Snyder here called last week. Washington at New Orleans. RG3 looked tremendous away from home in the Superdome.
Go ahead and jump on the bandwagon, y'all.
How did he pull off this win? That is incredible.
He's surrounded by a great team. That Redskins team, the owner, Daniel Snyder, not me, he went out and said, I'm going to put a playoff caliber team, maybe Super Bowl caliber team together, and you see Garcon had over 100 yards receiving. They look nice. Washington looks real nice.
RG3 had a 320 yards, 4th most ever for an NFL debut.
Wow.
The Saints' defense
garbage.
They looked worse than the Packers, and I thought the Packers would be pretty bad. Breeze looked off to me. Breeze had 12 passes that were off target. That's the most he's had since the 2009 season. RG3, this is what impressed me the most. When I saw this stat, this is impressed me the most. RG3 was 8 for 9 with 188 yards when New Orleans sent 5 or more rushers. That's the NFL. You're having 5 or more rushers. You're a rookie in the NFL. Under pressure like that, under duress, in your first game.
And he turned the ball over none.
Yeah.
None.
That's extremely impressive. Big props to RG3. I'm really excited to watch his career blossom. Next, we got Jacksonville at Minnesota. Two bright spots in this. Adrian Peterson from Minnesota looked healthy. That has to be a welcome sign for all Vikings fan and Billy, who has him in the fantasy league.
Yeah.
Blaine Gabbert, as much as I dogged on him,
he looks good. Both second-year quarterbacks look good.
Yep.
They looked real good. Ponder was really
looked
good.
Very confident in the pocket. Both looked very good. Vikings picked up a 26-23 win, field goal in overtime.
Yeah, the first overtime, really the only overtime game of week 1.
And homegrown Georgia Georgia player Blair Walsh was a huge contributor in the Vikings kicking game. Next up is Falcons at Chiefs, and this turned out to be kind of a semi-blowout.
Yeah, the first half was great. It was tied for most part. I think the Falcons went in 24-21 at halftime.
Very back and forth. Yeah.
Mike Nolan went in there and told the Falcons, "Hey, I need y'all to get it together."
Julio Jones had 108 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Wow.
Ryan was 1 yard short of 300 yards, had 3 touchdowns.
Gonzalez.
This was the offense we were promised. Gonzalez, dunked the ball after his
booed.
touchdown. Yeah,
they booed him.
This was the offense all you Falcons fans were promised.
Yes, they're going to be impressive now, but they did lose Grimes.
That makes the Asante Samuel pickup in the offseason that much bigger. Bright spot for the Chiefs. You had 3 of your top defensive players out, so the 40 points the Falcons picked up might have been a little less. And Jamal Charles coming off an ACL tear, I believe. ACL or MCL?
I think it was an ACL.
One of those two injury last year.
But 87 yards.
Yeah. Solid, looked good. Like Adrian Peterson. You didn't know how he was going to look. Came out and looked very, very good. Next up is New England at Tennessee. I think the big story here is Chris Johnson was just a non-factor.
Non-factor.
I mean, two years ago, he led the NFL in rushing. I mean, just amazing. One of the greatest athletic performances I've ever seen at the running back position.
Did he have 5 yards this weekend?
5 or 4. I mean,
something
that is
like
just
that. Yeah.
4 yards, and he had 4 yards rushing this year or last week.
But that's saying something also about what we haven't seen much of, and that's a young, very impressive New England defense.
I agree. Last year that was their biggest weakness. And Chris Johnson, 8 of his 11 carries, he got hit behind the line of scrimmage. So that also had a big thing to do with your offensive line.
Yeah, and they've got Brady too. Don't ever forget about Brady on the Patriots.
He passed 300 yards past John Elway on the all-time touchdown list. Yeah, so he's Brady and the Pats did their thing, took care of business, 34-13. Next is Rams and Lions. Lions just won an ugly game despite
3 interceptions.
Stafford's,
yes.
Yeah. Best thing.
His only touchdown came in that last drive at the very end with 10 seconds in the game. Mm-hmm. We're talking about a guy that's got Calvin Johnson out there, and he didn't even throw to Calvin Johnson for the touchdown.
Nope, no touchdowns by Calvin. They need to vastly improve on that. Next one's Philly at Cleveland. 8 combined interceptions for this. Brandon Weeden looked horrible. Mike Vick looked horrible. Mike Vick dropped back for over 50 passes.
Yes, one of 2 quarterbacks to do that.
Under pressure, Vick was 1 for 16 with 1 interception. That is just awful. For a guy that's been in the league for over a decade, you can't take pressure like that. That is just.
And you're doing horrible when Mike Vick is dropping back to pass at 50 sometimes.
Absolutely. Next game is Indy at Chicago. Luck had almost the exact same line as Manning did in his opening. 302 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, almost exactly like Manning.
And Colt fans, you got something to look forward to. Mm-hmm. Maybe Luck could be.
Yep.
Next
Bears offense looked terrific. Forte and Bush had a combined 122 yards and 3 touchdowns. And the Bears, the big thing here is they won the turnover battle 5-1. Whenever you win the turnover battle 5-1 in the NFL, if you don't win, there's something big wrong there. And the final game was the Thursday game. Happened almost a week, or Wednesday game. Pardon me. Happened almost a week ago. Was my Dallas Cowboys beating them up on those little G-men from New York.
Yeah, they did. Both teams look good. The Giants, if they don't fix that secondary, that repeat to the playoffs is not going to happen.
I agree.
Especially with the Redskins looking as good as they look.
And I know the Giants had some injuries in the secondary, but
you go have injuries in the NFL.
The person they picked on was Corey Webster, who was supposed to be their number 1 cornerback before the season. So that might have had a little something to contribute with it. The Cowboys looked like the real deal with Tony Romo. Having said that, huge issues in the offensive line. If that doesn't get corrected, that's the number. I know everybody says the quarterback is the most important position on the football field. The offensive line is.
Yeah, they're the ones that protects the quarterback.
If you don't have a good offensive line, the quarterback doesn't have enough time to throw, and that needs to be. They need to fix that quickly. And we're gonna give a quick shout out to Matt Ridgway, one of our own, one of our last year's co-hosts. Went 14-2, I believe, in the pigskin pick.
Yes.
He is right now leading it. Matt, I don't know how you cheated this week to beat me. But somehow you figured out a way to beat me. Thanks so much for everybody that joined the Pigskin Pick'em group. I mean, it's just one more way we'd like to reach out and try to build our fan base just with cool interactive games. And if there's any suggestions or anything y'all have, just send it our way for any type of a poll, a game, something like to see on the show, just anything. Just give us a holler.
Cookies.
Yep. But I'm Bryce Sparling, and for D. Snyder over here, this has been the Week 1 recap for Sports Club.